Today, we're going to talk about measuring the performance of your shader. Let's go. Measuring performance is a complex topic, so this is going to be the first in a two-part series. This week, I'm going to show you a simple performance measuring method, and then explain why it can be misleading. And then next week, I'm going to show you the most effective method for measuring performance. Alright, so you're making a complex shader, like this one for example, and you want to know if what you're doing is going to run fast enough, or if it's going to slow down your game. How can you tell if a shader is too complicated? Or you have a really complex shader and you're trying to simplify it. How can you tell if your changes are making a difference? What you need to do is to measure how long it takes the graphics card to render your shader. The easiest and most convenient method to judge the speed of the shader is to look at the instruction count. So in Unreal, we can take a look at the stats panel down here at the bottom of the shader editor. And it says base pass shader 323 instructions. And if I simplify my shader a little bit, like for example, I've got this block here that is doing the rain calculations. If I simplify this and just skip this block, let's see, we'll wire base color in here, roughness in here, disconnect this specular, and then wire normal here. My shader is going to recompile, and you can see that now I have 167 instructions. So you can see that if I remove things from the shader, my instruction number goes down. So can I use this as a relative measure to judge if the shader is faster or slower than another shader? And if I make an optimization like this and it reduces the instruction count, that means my shader will run faster, right? Well, spoiler alert, no. No, it doesn't. At least, not always. Sometimes it's possible to reduce this instruction count number and actually make the shader run slower. I'm going to explain why the instruction count is a very inaccurate measure of shader performance, but first we need to back up and understand a few foundational principles like what is an instruction. So first, you make your shader or your material in Unreal's Material Editor or Unity's shader graph. Here you're using a nice looking user-friendly node-based interface. It's basically visual programming, but what you're really doing is writing code. Each of the nodes in your graph represents one or more lines of shader code. The game engine takes the code from each of the nodes in your graph and puts it all together to create a text-based shader in a language like HLSL or GLSL. So here you can see an example of the code that gets generated by Unreal. And in Unreal, if we go to the Tools menu and we pick Shader Code, HLSL code, you can see the code that gets generated by the shader graph that you created. So that's pretty cool. Did you know that you were writing all of this code when you made your shader graph? So, is this code what runs on the graphics hardware? Nope. There are actually a couple of more steps to this process. After the game engine writes out all of this shader code, the code then gets sent to the graphics API like DirectX or OpenGL, or Metal, depending on your platform. The graphics API translates this high-level code into assembly language. Assembly language is a list of raw instructions or math commands that we're asking the hardware to execute. Each of these commands basically just says, take the data in this memory register and perform this specific math operation on it. And this is where the term instructions come from. When the shader is compiled, we get a big list of instructions for the GPU, and the number of instructions in this list is where we get our instruction count. One of the problems with measuring shader speed by looking at the number of instructions can be found in this step. If your shader has a loop in it, where it's supposed to do a set of tasks multiple times, your list of instructions will show the maximum possible number of instructions for all of the loops that it could do. So, the list contains the instructions listing the maximum number of times the loop can run. It's possible that when the shader runs, it will only need to do the loop once or twice, but the instruction list will still have all of the instructions repeated for the maximum number of times the loop can run. So in this case, the instruction count is significantly higher than it should be and isn't an accurate measurement. There is one more step in this process. The graphics API sends this list of instructions to the graphics driver, and the driver again translates this list of instructions directly into commands that are optimized for your specific graphics card. So the assembly language instructions in the previous step are generic for all graphics hardware, but in this step, we're making commands that are custom for your specific graphics hardware. And in this step, we're going to see a few more reasons why instruction count is a poor estimate for performance. All right, now that we have a better understanding of the steps required to translate your shader graph into something that the graphics hardware can execute, let's take a look more specifically at what happens in these steps where we're translating HLSL code into hardware-specific commands. In order to illustrate that, I'm going to switch us over to using a tool called Shader Playground. All right, here we are in Shader Playground, and I'll put a link to this website down in the description. This is a tool that will allow us to write a shader in HLSL code over here on the left, and on the right, it will show us what the compiler did with our HLSL code. And this is such an awesome tool that from now on my channel, this is how we're going to write shaders. We're not going to use the nice node-based interfaces anymore in Unreal or Unity. We're going to write all our shaders in code in Shader Playground. Just kidding. I'm just trying to see if you were awake there. No, I just want to use this tool for a minute to illustrate a couple of points about shader instructions. So we start out with a super basic shader, and all it does is take an input color and return that color itself. And in the middle, it shows that we're using the DirectX compiler, Microsoft FXC. We could also use DXC as well. So just for fun, let's change this shader and see what happens. Of course, we have our instructions here, and the main one that we're looking at here is just moving one color to another place. This is the input color, and it's saying to move it to the output register. And that's about all this shader is doing. You can see that it's taking 2 instructions, right? So this is about as simple as you can possibly get. Just for fun, let's change this shader, and instead of returning just the input color, let's return the sign of the input color and see what happens. We'll just wait a few minutes for it to compile, and then it'll give us the result. All right, so now that it's compiled, you can see that we have a new instruction here called sine cos, which is performing that sine wave. And this instruction actually does the sine and cosine, but we only need the sine, so it's only using that part. But anyway, I just wanted to show you that changing our shader over here creates new instructions as the shader gets compiled. But the really cool thing about this tool is that it allows us to see the specific instructions that will get generated for AMD's Radeon cards from the assembly language. So not only can we see the assembly language here, but we can actually see the commands that are specifically generated for Radeon cards. So let's change this to Radeon GPU Analyzer. And now the instructions that we see over here on the right side are specific to the AMD graphics hardware that I select here in the middle. And even better than that, if I set this drop down here to ISA breakdown, we get a new piece of information. Take a look at this. We have this column over here on the right called cycles, and that tells us exactly how many cycles of the hardware it's going to take to execute each of these instructions. So you can see here's a multiply instruction, and this is taking 4 cycles. And here's a sign instruction, and this is taking 16 cycles. So now that we can see this cycle information, there are 2 really important things that I want to show you. First of all, take a look at how many sign instructions there are here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's doing this sign 4 times. Why is that? Well, if we take a look at our shader over here, you can see that our color is the data type of float 4. So there are actually 4 values there: red, green, blue, and alpha. And when we perform sign, we have to do that on all 4 channels. So you can see we have 16 cycles for red, 16 cycles for green, 16 cycles for blue, and also 16 cycles for alpha. So this is adding up to 64 cycles in something that in our assembly just shows up as a single instruction. If I switch back here to Microsoft FXC, there you go, just one sine cosine instruction for an operation that's actually going to take 64 cycles. So that's a really important point. If I have a shader that is doing all operations on float 4s and another shader that's doing all operations on just floats, they may have the same instruction counts, but the float 4 version is actually going to be 4 times longer to render on the GPU than the float version. And so that is a really big discrepancy in the number of instructions that it's showing versus how long it's actually going to take to render. All right, let's look at one more thing, and I'm just going to switch back to the Radeon GPU Analyzer again here. And this element is probably the most important, so pay really close attention here. Notice that the sign instruction costs 16 cycles, and the multiply instruction only costs 4. And these are 2 instructions that just show up as one instruction in the assembly language, but here in the commands that are generated for the Radeon, the sine wave is actually costing 4 times as much. So what do we learn from this? Well, we learn that not all instructions are the same. Let's take a look at another one. I'm going to, just to simplify this and get rid of all of the extra stuff, I'm going to change our color to just float instead of float 4. And what you'll see now is that we only have 1 multiply and 1 sign instead of 4 of them like we did before. So let's find out what happens if we do the hyperbolic tangent. Let's do tan H and wait for this to compile and see what happens. All right, so we've got a whole bunch more instructions here. And if I set this to the ISA breakdown, now we have a multiply, 2 exponents, an add, subtract, a reciprocal, and another multiply. If you add all of these up, it actually adds up to 64 cycles. Let's see what FXC tells us this is. So you remember our simplest shader was just 2 instructions, but if we do a tan H on our input color, it says now it's approximately 8 instructions. So we've gone from 2 up to 8. So our hyperbolic tangent operation, it says is taking 6 instructions. But then if we switch over here to our Radeon GPU Analyzer again, we added up all of the cycles and it was actually 64 cycles. And so what's happening is this is taking more than 2.5 times as long as you'd think it would if you're just looking at the number of instructions versus the number of cycles. So what do we learn from this? That not all instructions are the same. Some of them are much slower than others. So to help us see this, I went ahead and typed in a bunch of different shader functions, common shader functions here, and wrote down how many cycles it took And I made this handy chart here. So I've got all these different shader function calls: ceiling, clamp, DDX, DDY, distance, fmod. So I've got all these functions here. And then on the right side, I've added up how many cycles it takes to calculate each one. And you can see that these vary widely. The absolute instruction requires 0 cycles. The shader's actually able to do that one for free. But some of these other ones, like arc sine and arc tangent, look at that. More than 64 instructions to do the atan2 function. So you can see that not all instructions are created equal. All right, let's sum up. There are 3 important principles that we've learned about the assembly language instruction count. The first is, and this one's a little bit less common, but still important, if our shader has loops in it, and we don't necessarily need to execute every single loop, the instruction count will still report all of the instructions in every possible loop. And so we could end up with many times the number of instructions in the loop than we're actually executing. The second principle is the instruction count does not take into account data types. So if we're performing the instructions on a float 4, it's 4 times the number of cycles to perform that operation than it would be if it's a float. And instruction count doesn't reflect that at all. And so our shader could actually be as much as 4 times more expensive than the instruction count is actually indicating. And then finally, all instructions are not created equal. Some of them are only 4 cycles. And again, I want to emphasize here that these cycle counts are specific to Radeon hardware, and they may be different on mobile devices, on Apple devices, on NVIDIA hardware. It really depends. But not all. The point is that not all instructions are the same. So some of them may be just 4 cycles. Some of them may be more than 64 cycles. So that's, as much as a 16 times difference from one instruction to another. So if you want to use instruction counts, I hope that I've shown you that this value is really unreliable. And even though it may show you that, things change when you increase or decrease the complexity in your shader, what this is telling you is relatively worthless information. And with that hopeful ending, I think we'll call this video good. I hope that I've convinced you to not rely on instruction counts to measure the performance of your shader. Okay, so what do you need to do to measure your performance? That's where you're gonna need to come back next week, because I'm gonna create another video where I go over the process of how to accurately measure the performance of your shader. So I hope you all come back for that one, and until then, have a great week, everybody. Thanks for watching.